10. Next on Fantasy Football Today in 5. Welcome to FFT in 5. I'm Chris Towers here with Heath Cummings, and we're talking about some of the biggest questions for each position heading into Week 10 of the NFL season. I think the first one we got to start with is, what are your expectations for Kyler Murray? Where do you have him ranked? It sounds like, assuming he avoids setbacks in practice this week, he was officially activated from the PUP list on Tuesday. He's going to start this week. What are your expectations for him?
They're low in his first game back. My expectations, more importantly, are he'll be a top 12 to 15 quarterback rest of season. He's ranked around 16 or 17 in his first game back. I'd expect there's some rust to shake off. So I would hope to have a better options to start this week. But I think he's probably a starter the rest of the season.
Yeah, he's QB 15 for me this week. He's got Buffalo, which obviously early on was
he has
a very
Atlanta.
tough. Sorry. He's got, yes, I was looking at Russell Wilson. He's got Atlanta. He's QB 17 for me. I was looking at the wrong shorter statured athletic quarterback. Kyler Murray has Atlanta. It's not a tough matchup. They lost Grady Jarrett, so the pass rush and the defensive line is going to be worse. But Atlanta tends to slow games down. They tend to limit possessions. So do you think Kyler Murray's just not going to run very much this week?
I would expect he runs less than he has in the past, but also, like, he's taken a long time to get back from this injury.
Yes.
He's been eligible to return for 3 weeks now, and we're over a year away. So I wouldn't say he's going to run none, just not as much as he has in the past.
All right, we've got James Conner coming back from IR, presumably for Arizona in that week. We've also, looks like, got Khalil Herbert coming back from IR. He was able to practice in full on Tuesday as he works his way back. What are your expectations for that Chicago backfield on Thursday night? And do you think it's just a stay-away situation?
If you were fortunate enough to be able to do that, I've got Herbert and Foreman both ranked as number 3 wide receivers. Herbert is my favorite Bears running back as of right now. I've got him right in that Chuba Hubbard, Jalen Warren, Najee Harris type range as a low-end number 2, high-end flex. Deontay Foreman not too far behind that. Now, we may get to Thursday and Foreman may be inactive again. If they decide to go that way, then I'd feel a lot better about Herbert. But for now, I'm expecting the first game back, it'll be close to a 50-50 split between the two.
Yeah, I think it's probably just going to be a 3-way split. I don't think Roschon Johnson's just going to go away. I don't think he's going to play a huge role. I think the idea that Roschon Johnson was going to, break out and become the starting running back for the Bears, he had that opportunity over the past couple of weeks, but the fact that he didn't probably makes that pretty unlikely for the rest of the season. But I do think he'll handle some of the passing downs, and my expectation is that Bears running game is just going to kind of be a mess. It's unfortunate that Herbert's first game back does come with a very good matchup against Carolina, and so you'd like to be able to use either him or Foreman, but I think it's probably a pretty iffy situation. I want to ask you about Jahan Dotson, who's been really, really good over the past couple of weeks after just an absolutely terrible start to the season where a lot of people dropped him. I think he was below 50% rostered before Week 9, and then he had a 100-yard game. Where are you at on Jahan Dotson? Because I kind of think he's a sell high candidate right now. What we've seen over the past couple of weeks is Jahan Dotson has run the third most routes in the NFL, but his target per route run rate is still like 20%. It's still not great, and this is the problem that we saw early on in the season was he was playing a lot of snaps, but they just weren't throwing the ball to him. He hasn't really shown he can earn targets. Even last year when he was doing well, he wasn't earning a lot of targets. So do you agree that he's a sell high candidate?
I don't think that you're going to get top 24 wide receiver value for him. And I think he is a number 3 wide receiver. So I'm probably not selling high. If something had happened to Terry McLaurin and people thought that he was going to be a top 15 wide receiver now or something, then I'd be more interested in selling, but I'm not interested in selling him for wide receiver 30 value. And I do think the target per route run thing is annoying. Eric Bieniemy spreading the ball around much like he did when he was in Kansas City, but they're dropping back 46, 47 times per game on the season. Sam Howell leads the NFL in that number and on pace to set a record. And maybe even the sacks number starting to trend a little bit in a better direction. So there'll actually be more pass attempts and not just him dropping back and getting dropped. So I think a 20% target per route run is probably okay in this context if you're counting on him being a boom bust number 3 wide receiver.
All right, let's move on to tight end. And I'll do a little mea culpa here because I thought Trey McBride was going to be worth starting last week, even with backup Clayton Tune starting for the Cardinals, and he was just such a disaster that I think they ended up with 56 yards of total offense in that game. But Kyler Murray's coming back. Do you think Trey McBride is still in that starting tight end discussion?
Not in the discussion. He's a must start tight end for me, especially this week. I mean, Dallas Goedert's maybe going on IR. Travis Kelce's not here. I would view him as a top 6 tight end this week and top 8 rest of season. This offense has been very tight end centric. We saw Kyler Murray when he had Zach Ertz and no DeAndre Hopkins. Ertz was getting 8 targets per game. McBride's better than Ertz. So for as long as Ertz is out, we're going to see Trey McBride as a must start tight end. Forget all about last week.
Would you start Trey McBride over Evan Ingram?
I've got Ingram ahead of him.
Dalton Kincaid.
Yes.
You would start Dalton Kincaid or
I would
Trey
start McBride.
Dalton Schultz.
Trey McBride.
Cole Kmet.
Trey McBride.
George Kittle.
Trey McBride.
Okay, interesting. I've got McBride as a top 10 tight end, so I'm not quite as enthusiastic about you, but I agree. Under most circumstances, you're probably starting Trey McBride this week. I would start, those guys that I asked ahead of him, but I think it's perfectly reasonable to start McBride ahead. He's shown some real upside, shown the ability to earn targets, so I'm excited to see what he can do with a real quarterback, and that's going to do it for FFT and 5. We'll see you tomorrow.